Hi, today we're going to talk about how easy it is to do ad hoc analytics using Promethium, where we'll actually take you through a use case where business users will ask for data that may not even exist, and we're going to take you through a workflow where a data engineer will work with a data analyst and then back to a business analyst to actually answer this question using Promethium's single platform, which includes data discovery, data prep and modeling, data virtualization, and even data visualization. So let's take a look at this, and let's take a look at how our sample environment here has a number of different data source connections. So let's go through that workflow. Let's say I'm a business user and I want to know something like radio revenue subscriptions by agent. And I'm going to hit a search, and it looks like no one's ever asked this question yet. So I am going to go ahead and I'm going to ask this question, and I'm going to assign it to someone. So let's say I'm going to assign it to the user called Casey. Now, as a business user, this is all I have to do for now. I am now done, and let's see what happens when the data engineer named Casey gets a request. So I am now logged in here as Casey, as you guys can see. So when I go to the Answers tab, I'm going to see that I've got some work cut out for me. It was requested by this user here. So I'm going to click on this answer here, and I can actually start working on this to help answer this question. So that's exactly what I'm going to do here. I'm going to do this thing called create a data map, and I am going to start selecting piece by piece the different components to build my data set. And so Promethium thinks I should start with this particular table first, right, after I filter out and only get the endorsed data. So let's take a look at why. Well, I'm going to select on this, and if I look at this, okay, someone's tagged it as subscription and radio. Okay, well, that's good because I was looking at radio subscriptions, right? Well, let's take a look at the sample values. So it looks like here's the first sample values. Maybe I want to take a look at the first 1,000 sample values. I can go ahead and just do that. And I can see subscription ID. I could see that this is it's a fact table with a bunch of different columns that I need, but it looks like I've got all the information from product ID, subscription information that I might need. And if I look at the column names and I see the sample values, it looks pretty good. Why don't I try it out? If I'm wrong, I just select a new one. So I simply have to click Add to Data Map, and then from here, I can select a number of different columns that I want, or maybe things I don't want at all. And so, maybe, I'm not sure what the data analyst is going to do, so I'll just include everything here for now. Okay, and then I'm going to keep going. I believe I needed some more information here, right, based upon what Promethium said. So I'm going to sort by the research score here. Okay, so I've got that one. So it looks like maybe this one's the next one I want to check out. And if I look at this one, oh, hey, look, it looks like this one gives me revenue information. Okay, if I look at the sample value, okay, it's got revenue information here, package information. Okay, looks like there's some, oh, this was a lifesaver. Hey, there's some good annotations by other folks. So why don't I go ahead and add this one as well? And maybe I can include and figure out how to join this. Now, one of the cool things about Promethium is even if these are different data sources, it will actually let me do the data prep and modeling regardless of where it came from. So it's a very easy way for me to visually look at certain things that could be joinable. So for example, I might look here and I see like, hey, maybe there's something called plan ID. Here, I just have to do a search to see if I find something similar. And in this case, it looks like I have something similar. So I can go ahead and select that one. Now again, if I'm wrong, I can go ahead and just do it again, or I can add another condition. And why don't I go ahead and just say I'm going to select everything here. Now if I wanted to do some casting here, I could do that. But again, I'm going to leave it to the data analyst to do that, so I'm not going to do that. So I've got revenues, I've got subscription. It looks like I need agent next. So why don't I go ahead and add agent? And let me go ahead now, add agent. Okay, so remember I need the agent, and I am going to use the research score again, and I'm only going to look for things that are endorsed. Aha, so it looks like this one from Snowflake might be a good one to pop up. And I'm going to do the same thing I normally do, which is I'm actually going to preview the data. Now, the cool thing about doing all this every single time I preview is I am not moving the data. The data is actually sitting in all these independent data sources like MySQL, Oracle, and Snowflake. So using data virtualization capabilities, I'm able to actually preview the information there. And same thing, it looks like I'm going to have to join this, and so I might look at this and see, is there anything here that I could possibly join? And so maybe I want to try agent ID. No, but there's something called agent key, so maybe agent record key and agent key could work. And again, I will just say I'm going to include everything here to basically build a data set. And let's see if this works. So I'm going to go ahead and hit run. Now, normally I shouldn't be able to do this because I normally would have to do an ETL and move the data from MySQL and from Oracle into Snowflake and transform it. But here, as you can see, we were able to actually do that. And I got a preview of the data, and first thing that I do as a good data engineer is make sure that there's no null values. And so it looks pretty decent. There's no null values. Now, maybe one thing I want to do is maybe I want to increase this a little bit more and make sure that that way the sample set is a little bit bigger before I hand it off to someone. Okay, so it looks like now it's increased from 100 rows to 684 rows. I think this looks pretty good, and I'm actually going to do one check first as a data engineer. And that is, I just want to check the SQL to make sure it looks okay. So it looks like everything that I did, even though no code bases, actually brought over all the different columns that I needed across the three tables. It did the proper joins for me. So I'm actually pretty happy about that. So let me reverse back to this. And if I think this looks pretty good, then I am going to publish this. So once I publish this, I can do a number of things. So let's go ahead and say, let me publish this, because once I publish this, I'm going to hand this off to my data analyst, who's going to be able to take this information and start working on this. So it looks like I am going to be done here. And so now that I'm done here, this will actually show up as a data map. So radio revenue subscription. So anyone with the proper access can now take this and start working on it. And I'm going to log in as another user called info. Great, so now the data analyst actually logged in as info, and I can see that this data set has actually been already created by support. So I'm going to actually take this data set. Let's make sure that the data set is actually valid. So we do that by validating the query, making sure that the federated query actually runs. We have all valid joins. Again, one of the things I like about this is I did not have to move any data. I did not have to write any SQL code, and I actually see that I've got a valid data set here. So this is great. I can go ahead and start using this. Now, one of the things I noticed immediately as I did this is, whoa, I've got a bunch of null values. What's going on here? So first thing that clues me in is maybe something didn't happen correctly with the join that I have here. And so maybe instead of a left outer, maybe I want to do an inner join here on this particular one. So let's go ahead and see what happens if I change the join type here. Okay, all right, we actually don't have any null values now. Maybe what I want to do is I can group by just the necessary information that I want the business user to be able to see. And the other thing that maybe I want to do is maybe I want to get rid of some null values that don't exist as well. So why don't we start by doing the group by, and I'm going to make sure that we do this in a way that makes sense. Since I'm the data analyst, I know the data. So for example, I might look for grouping by vendor and by LAN, which actually is really term. So I'm going to make that so it's a little bit easier. And then I'm going to also add a summarization field here. And I'm going to, whoops, maybe I'm going to make this monthly expected revenue, okay, which is what MER means. So this makes it a little bit easier for my business user to understand. And that will make it a little bit easier. Instead of having 92 columns or so, it's going to make this a little bit easier on the eyes for the business analyst. There we go. So vendor, plan, package, term makes it a little bit easier here. And let's see, I notice I've got some blanks here. So what I'll probably do is I'm going to do a filter where the sum of revenue does not equal to any null values, okay? All right. So as I do this, notice that the lineage is updated in real time, right? Before we had the joins, so now it actually shows the two different types of joins I have. It shows the group by, it shows the filter that I have. So that way it can actually keep track of all this information in real time. Now that I'm done, I'm actually going to go back to my business user view. Great, so now my business user here has the ability to now simply select the data, right, that someone's actually created for them. Now that we've got a data set created, as a business user, it's really easy for me to simply come in here and just simply select the work that someone has already done for me and start visualizing and plotting. For example, here's all the total revenues. Now remember, I originally wanted to know what was the revenue by vendor, right? And so I can go ahead and plot this here. I'm going to know by plan. So this will go ahead and update. I'm going to just let it run. And look, I have my answer now. How easy was that? One of my favorite capabilities is being able to do storytelling. So storytelling does a lot of the hard work that data science used to do, but as a business user, I simply need to just click one button called Find Stories, and Promethium is actually going to use our natural language generation to actually go and help you look at outliers, and also anomalies, and also certain regression analysis and correlation analysis. So for example here, maybe I want to look at are there any significant trends between plans and revenues, and that's all I need to do. All right, look at this. It actually went and found some stories for us. So here, number one, it actually went and narrated and told you what this chart was measuring. This is revenue by plan name. It told you what the average was, the minimum value, what the distribution skew is. So it automatically did that for us so that we actually didn't have to do any figuring out. Now, one thing to also mention is that if you don't like our visualization, it's okay. You can actually, incorporate visualization from, say, something like Tableau or Power BI, Looker, etc. So that way you can actually embed those charts actually in Promethium. So that way, once I do the SSO, it's going to check to see that I am that particular user. And once it does validate me, then I can actually incorporate the Tableau dashboards right here inside of Promethium. And so I can start cataloging dashboards as well as using dashboards, and everything Tableau can do, I can now do in Promethium. So that way, you don't have to use our visualization if you don't want to. But our visualization, as you can see, was there as a way to very quickly get to an answer and be able to do narration and storytelling. So as you can see, we've now actually completed the entire workflow. But let's say I'm a business user and I kind of wanted to explore on my own. I didn't want to wait for the data analyst or data engineer. Could I actually do that with Promethium? Well, that's actually one of Promethium's key patented technologies, is the ability to use natural language processing to automatically generate the data set. So we're going to actually show you how we can actually do that end-to-end for the business user. So let's say I'm a business user and I'm going to just type in a question like, what is the revenue subscription? And this time I'm going to get a little bit more detail. Instead of just by agent, I want to say between, say, 8 and 19. And I want to say, by vendor, by plan from, I want to put a different time range to 2019. So if I'm a business user and I ask this question and it hasn't been asked before, then I actually have the ability to, instead of assigning it to someone like I did last time, I could ask Promethium to do this work for me where it will actually translate this natural language question to figure out for us the data that would be required to actually put it together. So in this case, based upon the question, without any ETL, without any previous queries that were done, Promethium was able to automatically figure out the right tables that you needed across all your entire data estate, which columns were needed, how to actually join them together, and actually do the data virtualization to execute a query all in one command. So here in 8 seconds, here is the preview of the data. And everything that you have here, Promethium will automatically show you and automatically generate these SQL statements so that way you can work with your data team for them to modify this. Now it can actually go back and simply take that data set immediately and start visualizing, right? So very quickly, we've seen this before, right? So the filters have already actually been applied. And so now I've gone ahead and just selected the different group bys, and Promethium will actually, in real time, update the query. Go ahead and change the different chart options. There we go. Now, this may not need to replace the work of the data analyst or data engineer, but rather we'd like to think of this as augmenting their capabilities, because now business users can actually do a lot more. Thank you very much, and please, if you have any more questions, check out our website at www.promethium.ai. Thank you.